down the paths of the Catholic Church, of Lutheran, of, what do you call it, Orthodox. Throughout my journey of my recent focus, we all go through seasons, right? And I'm almost in the tail end of this season where it's like my spiritual season, where the focus has been studying religion, studying my faith, studying spirituality, everything I've learned, to find the answers to questions I've always had that I never really got an answer to go dig for it myself, to read the source of the materials, to make sure that the original translator actually had it correct. I've been on that journey, and throughout the journey I've learned so much. My viewpoint on things have drastically changed, and it's all centered on facts, and that's the way it should be. I tell my kids all the time, I don't want you to just believe what I believe because I'm your mom and you're brought up in this kind of environment. Even as they grow, I'm always bringing my beliefs to them as something for them to learn for themselves and accept themselves based on studying it themselves. There's so many, being one who grew up in the church, it was so common. I became a Christian at 5 years old. I got baptized at 8 years old. I can out-preach most kids. I can tell you your sin. I could make myself look better than all the kids in youth group because of, my dad's a deacon, and, we don't say the word death in our house. And it's just, I'm so familiar with families and people like that. So the last thing I want is my kids to have that same kind of opinion of their upbringing. I want them to know that so many things were brought to the table throughout their upbringing to help guide them to their conclusion of their faith. I don't think I have it right in everything that I think, in every viewpoint. It's impossible. There's going to be doctrines that I might be missing the mark on. There's going to be things that I might do that might be a complete waste of time, but it's not a sin. For example, women who wear a head covering. It might not be a requirement. It's just a preference. It's not a sin if they don't. But if they go out of their way because they feel they need to, they have that conviction, that's their choice. It's not like it has hindered their life, causing a sin, whatever. It's just a choice. That could be wasting their time doing it because there's really nothing wrong with not covering your head, but that's just their choice, right? So I might be wasting my time doing traditions or beliefs, but it's not like it's causing a hindrance in my relationship with God. It's just something that I'm choosing to do, like tradition, like the Catholic Church and all their traditions. Looks like a total waste of time and effort from a Protestant's point of view, but that's fine. That's their choice for doing that. There's benefits and there's viewpoints to all of those things. So throughout my spiritual journey, those are kind of the things that I've wanted to research and find out for myself, find the truth, look at the original manuscripts, the original documents, the original Dead Sea Scrolls, reading the Book of Enoch, reading all of these things that I was just told were not of God. They weren't real. They weren't something that we should believe, period. Okay, why? Why is it that the church, why is it that the Catholic Church kind of evolved from Jesus and his disciples? How did that happen? Who makes the call when certain things are done in the church? It's based on tradition. There's some things that the church does that's just tradition. It's not in the Bible. Like Ash Wednesday, or Advent, or these things that are not in the Bible, but it's something that they partake in. Like, for example, when the Gentiles became Christian, they became saved. There's a verse in the Bible where it says, okay, do they need to cut off their dick now and cut off their foreskin now that they're a Christian? Is that what they need to do? Has that been the change? No, but that's not biblical. It's not in the Bible that it's okay to leave it or, told that you need to cut it off. There's things that need a head of the church to help answer and establish. That was the whole purpose of the church, to kind of be that voice of reason, or be the one that makes those kind of calls and communicates that to the flock, right? So that's why the Catholic Church and people who actually do study it, they get tempted to turn Catholic, because a lot of it starts to make sense when you look at it through that perspective. You need a person in position to help make those calls when it's confusing, when doctrine is confusing in the Bible, like divorce. Is it really a sin to remarry? All of those things that are not clear in the Bible. The reason for the Catholic Church, they use the Pope and all of that, is to help answer those questions. To help be the one that says, no, this is what God meant, so now we're going to start believing that. The Protestant Church does it differently. There's not a head of the Protestant community, right? So it's really based on per church. So then you church hop to find a church that has most of what you believe, right? There's some churches that say speaking in tongues no longer exists. The Bible doesn't say it stopped. So there's churches that believe it does and churches that don't. Are they sinning if they say they don't believe in it? No. But it's a status, it's a position, a viewpoint that the church represents. So it's per church, not per religion. In the Catholic Church, they are all under this umbrella that is divvied out from there, which to me, I wish the Protestants had that layout. It would be really beneficial and helpful to help keep the voice consistent. Instead, you get all these different denominations in the Protestant side of things because they don't agree and there's no one that's going to call the shots. Biblically, there was someone that oversaw it, and as society continued, thus the Catholic Church was born. But on those bases, it all makes sense. So it is boring, tedious work and research, but I have been just diving into that. Just with astrology, for example. Back in the days, many centuries ago, it was normal and expected to understand the stars and the meaning and astrology and how God had utilized it and presented it to his people to use. But throughout society and centuries, things were changed. That gave the people too much power. So the church wanted to take that away and make it look like it was not of God, because studying and knowing astrology gave power to the people. That's why they also didn't want people to read the Bible. No, you shouldn't read the Bible. Let the priest read the Bible, because you are not able to really comprehend what you're reading. That's why Luther and that whole thing was born from that. Luther wanted people to read the Bible and learn and grow themselves. So the church got it wrong there. But do you see the malicious intent? Same went with astrology, same with reading the Bible. Do you know Luther still prayed to Mary to his deathbed? He still prayed the rosary. He still believed a lot of those Catholic things that the Lutheran Church doesn't believe now. There's so much that I've learned through studying and research where people have got it wrong. And it's not like it's a sin what they're choosing to not believe or whatnot, but it's sad because there's a lot of good traditions that beneficially that can benefit your personal life, that'll help you feel good, that'll help you feel closer to God, that we simply don't do because traditionally it was changed and altered. Books being taken out of the Bible. I had to dive deep to find out why that happened, who approved it, what people think, why was it taken out of the Bible we have today, who made that call, who decided which books were legit and put together to make one Bible. Somebody made that call. It wasn't God, it wasn't Jesus, it wasn't the disciples who did it. It were individual people in powerful positions who made that decision to create the Bible from these hand-picked books. The Bible that we worship and are obsessed with as Christians, that we take verbatim. If it doesn't say it in the Bible, then it's not of God. It's not sound doctrine. You hear that a lot. So it's really so much information gets altered. And that's why I started focusing a lot on astrology, because that gives you power. It helps guide you to things that might be happening, that could happen. The Pope didn't want that kind of power given to the people. He didn't want them to be able to be guided in a sense from forces and energies out there that God has, that He created, that He has given us an ability to work with. Why would they want that? They were always trying to take away the power of the people. So I went down that rabbit hole, and later, I talked about it in a separate video if you wanted to listen more about it. But I discovered that astrology is not a sin. That God created the stars and all of the constellations to help us, to guide us through certain seasons of our lives. But the church wanted to demonize it for their own gain. So it's not like it's a sin to not do it, but you're missing out on so much guidance and so much help by not considering that maybe the church got it wrong. You're missing out on so much, all these abilities to get closer to God and strengthen your relationship, to have an easier life. It gives you the tools to help you. And that's, of course, something God actually would want to do. He loves us, right? And to have that option there, but yet so many people don't know, because it's been diluted and changed and altered and demonized throughout the centuries. It's a shame. And there's a lot of things like that where they just miss the mark. Not like it's a detrimental thing, it's just missed opportunities to better your life and be closer to God and the divine and just your spiritual walk in general. I think the biggest thing that I unpacked throughout this season was I wrote down a blog that is mainly about the verses that Christians will use to justify judging another person or disowning somebody or not associating with somebody. That's one of the main things that affect people that either grew up Christian or become one, is being judged harshly and being treated cruelly by another so-called Christian. It's one of the main things I hear when someone says they don't believe in God anymore, they stop going to church. It always has, the majority of the time, comes from a point of pain based on how they were treated by a so-called Christian. So this blog was I definitely needed to write it. I wish I could share it with directly with some people that I was thinking about when I wrote it, because I too was a victim. I was targeted, I was mistreated, I was judged, I was treated like crap by hypocrites. And that really is what it came down to and comes down to. But I dissected scripture and I wrote, it's a beautiful put together article for people to truly understand why they do this, the verses that they use to justify what they do and how they treat people, and how to combat that, and my viewpoint and thought on people who do that, as well as the victims of those kind of situations. I have been a victim from close family members, so I wrote it from a perspective of I know exactly how it feels. I know exactly the excuses they use to justify their judgment, their pride. And I'll add the link down below in the description box, but I think it's a very important article for people to read. I hope certain people come across it so they get a good eye opener on who they've been, how they've been treating other people, and a different way to look at that. Hopefully they're humbled, hopefully they're encouraged to change and encouraged to ask for forgiveness and mend relationships where they should mend and move forward. And that maturity and knowing that, hey, I fucked up, I got it wrong, I missed the mark. Let me try to fix this with the last few years I have here on earth. Mend those relationships, and I hope that's what it ends up doing. But throughout my spiritual season, it has really been an eye-opener. It's giving me peace and closure, just knowing that I finally am understanding, that I'm finally getting it right, that I'm finally finding the answers I need. So it all makes sense to me, not just because this is what I was raised, but because this is actually what is historically accurate. It's just a peace of mind. And if I'm coming out taking anything out of that, it's that. You know, there's things that before it wouldn't sit right with me, right? I couldn't put a finger on it, but I knew certain beliefs or certain things that were shunned by the church just shouldn't be. And it really took me diving deep into boring material and manuscripts and documents to find those answers. And it's not easy to communicate that to people that have not actually dove in themselves. So trying to find a way to interpret what I've learned so my kids can read it and understand it, so they don't have to dive deep into dissecting everything, that I can organize it into one simple guide on these are the options we have as a Christian, as someone who, you know, worships Jesus and is a practicing Christian. These are your options. You don't have to do all these traditions, you don't have to use all these tools, but these are available to you if you need them. And that's my goal and purpose of all the materials that I've accumulated and all the knowledge. That's my hope and focus for people who want to learn here on my YouTube channel or on my blog, as well as my family around me. If they actually want to see the supporting documents I have accumulated and why I feel these are the options available to us as Christians, then I want them to be able to read all that. I want them to be able to find all the answers directly in one simple guide instead of having to go seek it like I did. It's like I did the work for my family and friends, for you guys, so you guys could get the answers quicker and kind of feel the same kind of relief and comfort that I did when I finally figured out all the things that were just so purposely confusing throughout the years, and how things have been communicated out of the church and whatnot. So I encourage you to check out my blog, check out my podcast. I already have a lot of materials out there to talk about certain topics, and if that's something you're interested in, I will drop the link down below. Until then, I will see you in my next video.